You will no longer stand between me and my destiny.
But I will.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull!" Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together, we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Welcome to another episode of I Have the Power, a He-Man podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie, who I guess will be, for the purposes of this particular recording, Man-at-Arms, I guess.
Okay.
Well, Steven is Cringer.
Cringer.
And you could either be, like I said, Man-at-Arms or Orko.
Okay. Hey, what's up, Masters of the Universe fans? It's the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green. It's the Emerald enthusiast, the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy. And you are here with the podcast that is like your first kiss with your true love. It gets no sweeter.
That was good. You always surprise me with these intros. I never know what you're going to say. Yeah, one thing I think that we can say, without a shadow of a doubt, is Masters of the Universe is back.
Yes.
And that is a good thing.
Yes.
Some
of us are very happy about that.
Well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I'm going to censor myself. I'm going to be kind. And if it was the 80s, I'd please rewind. I would acquiesce to their wish of please rewinding. But I'm not gonna. Before I get into my polite, I'm going to try and keep it polite. My polite rant about a certain segment of the fandom. I just want to call attention to my background, which is Castle Grayskull behind me.
Yes.
And that was provided by the fine folks at Powerhouse Entertainment. They didn't actually send it to me. They posted on Twitter. I saved it, and now using it as the background for the show.
Cool, yeah. But
I'd like to point out their great work anyway.
That was one of my favorite play sets as a kid was Castle Grayskull.
Yeah, I always want to go there. Like, whoa, what's inside? Because they never really get it. Like, Skeletor's always trying to get in there, and I'm like, what's so good in there that what's in there that you want to get in there? Like, what's so pressing? Like, for me, it was that I didn't think that as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, maybe that's like the Playboy Mansion of Eternia. And that's why he's trying to get in. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah. Masters is back. And of course, whenever you revive, reinvent, continue a beloved franchise from youth, there is inevitably a segment of the fandom that just has to react in ridiculous, unfounded ways sometimes, that you just gotta call it for what it is, ridiculous. Now, I'm all for people having different opinions.
Sure.
If you watch this and you didn't enjoy it, and you can provide legitimate, factual, rational reasoning, then cool. If that's your stance, I respect your opinion not to like it. I just want to say, before I go into this discussion, that I am by no means a Kevin Smith fanboy. I'm not a Kevin Smith homer. So anybody that's going to preemptively call me that, you're wrong. Here's what I liked from Kevin Smith's previous work. his Daredevil run, his what am I forgetting now? Green Arrow run, his Green Hornet run, and the Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet miniseries that he did for DC. I'm not a fan of Clerks, Chasing Amy, Dogma, or pretty much any of Kevin Smith's movies. I don't say that to be mean. They're just not my thing.
That's your taste, yeah. I like all those. I also like Comic Book Man.
I did like that show, Comic Book Man.
Yeah.
I did that along with it, but I'm not a fan of his movies, like Tusk and all that stuff. That just it doesn't do it for me. So I like some of his stuff, some of the other stuff I don't care for. So I just want to say that. So I'm not a homer of Kevin Smith. He hasn't paid me to defend him. He certainly hasn't sent me any of the Mattel toys. God knows I have to pay out of pocket for those, and they still haven't come yet. So nobody's giving me favors or paying me for this kind of thing. But here we go.
Yeah.
Donnie, I'm shocked and dismayed at the vitriol I'm seeing for the show in certain parts.
Yeah.
And it all started, really, I guess we got to go into spoilers.
Well, obviously, if they're listening to this podcast, they're going to get some spoilers. So
spoilers from here on out. I have to say what I'm going to say to get into the nitty-gritty of the rant.
Yes.
So He-Man, at the end of the first episode of this show, dies. Gone. Dead. Like,
Pruned.
Pruned, yeah. You've seen Loki.
To make a Loki reference.
He's been pruned. And so is Skeletor. They're both gone. There's this big battle.
Elite.
Yeah, He-Man. We'll get into it. He-Man separates the swords. There's a big magical explosion. And him and Skeletor are off into the great beyond, or wherever the hell, I guess Preternia and Subternia, according to the show. So they're gone. So now apparently this spoiler had leaked months before and was posted by a YouTube channel or elements of this idea because from that point on, from the first episode on, it's a journey with Tila at the forefront and a couple of the other Masters of the Universe. There's Andra, which is a newer character. Well, she was a toy, but the character never made it to the animation stage before. Right. There's Roboto, there's Man-at-Arms, Evil-Lyn, Orko. They all go on a quest.
Beastman,
to kind of restore the magic, not restore the Snyderverse, restore the magic to eternity. I see I'm pissing off all kinds of fans today. But no, so that's the rest of episodes 2 to 5. Right?
Although you do see He-Man in flashbacks. Don't get the impression that there's no He-Man
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. So the elements of this information was told to a YouTube channel, which I will not say by name because I don't want to give those morons any more press than they've already gotten. But a part of their name is in this word I'm going to use. They're called something. I'm going to call them the Ass Clown Channel because that's what they are, a bunch of ass clowns. Anyway, so they basically came out and said that their informant told them the following. My understanding of Kevin Smith's, and this was on March 10th that they posted this.
Okay.
My understanding of Kevin Smith's He-Man series from an alleged insider is that Tila is a better He-Man than Adam, and he steps aside to let her and her girlfriend take over hero duties. So Kevin Smith responded. I'm going to read Kevin Smith's response.
By all means.
As showrunner, I really could have used these story suggestions before we locked the scripts. However, no, He-Man does no stepping aside, and Tila has no girlfriend on our show. The storyline is pretty dark and way metal. Before Revelation, we were calling it End of the Universe. So then, on May 27, Screen Rant ran a story that said, one major difference between this and the original show, aside from the title, which the 80s show was called, and this is a big distinction,
exactly,
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This show that we're going to be reviewing in a bit, after I finish my rant, is called Masters of the Universe Revelation. Notice, He-Man's name is nowhere in the title.
Mm-hmm.
But Screen Rant says one major difference is that though He-Man will certainly be around, he won't be the main protagonist anymore. Instead, the focus will be on Tila, to which Ask Clown TV, which is what I'm calling the Twitter network, responded, told ya, to which Kevin Smith responded, with all due respect, I've read every script for our shows, plus wrote a few, and viewed 4 amazing animatics. While Tila is as present as she's always been in the Motu Adventures, and she plays a big role, our series is literally all about He-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So now, certain people have seen the show. Chief among them is Ask Clown TV, and a segment of fans are, oh my God, Kevin Smith lied. It's the Tila show. Well, let's address the fact that he lied. I don't think he did lie.
He did not.
Here's why. Because this YouTube channel, remember, their original claim was Tila is a better He-Man than Adam.
Not true.
That He-Man steps aside.
Not true.
And that Andra and Tila, Andra, who is, according to these geniuses, and I use that term, jokingly, is Tila's girlfriend. Well, okay, hold on. Donnie, maybe you see things differently than I do, but correct me if I'm wrong. When a hero sacrifices themselves for the greater good of their community or the world or what have you, or other people, is that stepping aside? Because I don't think it is.
No. One of the main themes you see here is both from Tila and Evil-Lyn is they've been in the shadow of He-Man and Skeletor their whole lives.
Yeah.
And you see part of this is them coming to terms with, their own power, their own place, right, now that those very central male figures have been removed.
Right.
So go ahead, sir.
Now, another little spoiler for the show we're gonna ultimately review. There's a moment where He-Man comes back.
Hmm?
He is in Preternia, which is heaven. And a lot of things, which is basically this universe's version of heaven. The great beyond for the champions of the universe.
Yes.
So there's a part where He-Man has to decide whether he's going to stay in that heavenly place or he's going to go back to Eternia and fight. with Teela and her crew. As the other champions tell He-Man, once you leave, there's no guarantee that if you should die again, that you'll end up back here.
Yes.
And also, they tell him, other people have wielded the power before you and will after you. You don't have to go. Now, if He-Man was, as the Ascalon TV claims, stepping aside, wouldn't he at that moment have said, you know what, Teela? Been there, done that. I ain't leaving this nice place. Look how good it is here. It's heaven.
If she is supposedly a better He-Man than he, then why not?
You take the sword, and he could even say to her, I'll step aside and you be the hero. He didn't do that. What did he do? He went back. That's not stepping aside. You morons. Look in the dictionary. It's not stepping aside. So, have we cleared the stepping aside part up?
Indeed.
Regards to the girlfriend. Donnie, can two people of the same sex not be friends anymore without being labeled, boyfriend and boyfriend or girlfriend and girlfriend? Because if that's the case, geez, we're boyfriends, man.
I never got now.
And by the way, I've never gotten a gift on our 1-year anniversary. Just want to throw that out there. Certainly didn't get anything from Steven, that's for sure. But I digress.
I can remember anniversaries for my wife, but not for two people. So no, I think I'm just going to stay in the monogamy category. But
right,
no, what I wanted to say here is that I never got the idea that they were more than friends. Now, granted, maybe I would see it differently if I was part of the LGBTQ community, but what I saw was that Teela obviously had feelings for Prince Adam.
Yeah.
She and Andra were just very close friends.
Yeah.
Now, it would have been fine with me had Teela turned out to be bisexual or something like that. That's fine with it, but that's not what I would be fine with that. But that's not what I saw.
Yeah, it's not there. It's simply not there. Why? Because she told her that she is worth it. Is it that she? That was the real only pep talk that she gave her, and it was nothing. There was nothing sexualized about it.
No, she said. I think she said, "Where you go, I go." Well,
there's nothing romantic about that.
There are a lot of close friendships that I would say that to a person, whether they were male or female. So
yeah. So the girlfriend thing. So already, Ascalon TV is 0 for 2.
Okay.
And again, Teela never became He-Man. So, and clearly, based on the end of the first 5 episodes, spoilers, Skeletor has the Sword of Power. So clearly, Teela is not a better hero than He-Man in this show, because if she was, Skeletor would have never gotten the sword.
Right.
So another complaint that I want to address that I think is unfounded.
Go ahead.
Is that the whole show was a bait and switch, because the trailers, Donnie, showed us He-Man. And then it was, according to these people, the Teela show. And Kevin Smith said, it's all about He-Man. But Teela was the central focus. Well, okay. So, bait and switch. That implies that the show is... The material they're presenting you is telling you one thing, and then when you see it, it's a totally different thing. Correct?
Correct.
Have I got the general definition of bait and switch right?
That is the accepted definition of bait and switch.
Okay,
yes.
Now I want to read you the description of Masters of the Universe Revelation.
Okay.
Because that is right off the bat. that is that's telling you what the show is going to be, right? Like the official description is literally here it is. This is what the show is going to be like.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to fire the I'm taking it from by the way, I'm getting it from Rotten Tomatoes as soon as it'll load. Okay, here we go. It's loading. All right. Okay, so the description. Where is it? Okay. It says here, the war for Eternia culminates in Masters of the Universe Revelation that picks up where the iconic characters left off decades ago. So far, sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says, after a cataclysmic battle between He-Man and Skeletor, Eternia is fractured and the Guardians of Grayskull are scattered. And after decades of secrets tore them apart, it's up to Teela to reunite the broken band of heroes and solve the mystery of the missing Sword of Power in a race against time to restore Eternia and prevent the end of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not the show that we got?
Which is exactly what we saw.
Where's the bait and switch?
And in no way does that mean He-Man is still central to the show. Just because the action is with Teela, that doesn't mean that He-Man wasn't central, that the events that were taking place didn't hinge on him.
Now, Donnie, the trailers, they showed He-Man, Donnie. Look at all the action. They showed He-Man in. Where was that in the show? It was there.
It was
in the first episode, and then scattered in the flashbacks, which he was in.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about a bait and switch? I'll tell you a bait and switch. And Marvel's admitted to this, so I'm not pulling things out of my rear end. I think it was during the trailers for Avengers Infinity War and Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Infinity War. They showed the Incredible Hulk in a group shot running with the Avengers. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
And it was the Hulk totally in Hulk mode, running with the Avengers into battle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Donnie, correct if I'm wrong, but in Avengers Infinity War, and then also Endgame, well, no, Infinity War, I should say, wasn't Bruce Banner in a Hulkbuster suit? Because he was essentially having the Incredible Hulk's version of performance anxiety.
Yeah, and he was not in the final battle against Thanos in Endgame.
Yes.
He was in the group battle, but when Thor and Iron Man and Captain America confronted Thanos, Bruce Banner, aka or the Hulk, was conspicuously absent.
Yes, exactly. So
yes, I'd call that a bait and switch.
And Marvel have admitted that they've been filming certain things that aren't in the movie specifically for the trailers to throw people off of spoilers.
Yes.
That's more of a bait and switch than anything we've seen from the description of Masters of the Universe Revelation or the trailer. I'm sorry, but it just is. Now, as for, look how much of He-Man they showed us. And then what they gave us. Well, yeah, hold on a second. He-Man is the most recognizable character of Masters of the Universe, right? There's no denying that, of the brand, correct?
Exactly.
Of course you're going to show your most recognizable character in the trailer. It's common sense. It's marketing 101. In fact, guess what other trailer did that, Donnie? Remember the trailer for the first Suicide Squad?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And who did they show?
That trailer hinged on showing the Joker and Batman.
I'm Batman.
And they showed the same 3 shots in every single trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they do that? Because, aside from Joker and Harley Quinn, the movie featured a bunch of characters that you and I know because we're comic fans, but general movie-going audience member number 4, 5, and 6 have no idea who Deadshot is, have no idea who Enchantress is, have no idea who Killer Croc is.
Or El Diablo.
Batman and the Joker, and that gets butts in seats.
Right.
Was that a bit? I mean, are you going to say that was a bait and switch? Because they promised me a Batman versus Joker, and we all we got from that was exactly what they showed us in the trailer: the car chase, you know, and the scenes where he wrangles up Deadshot and Killer Croc.
Yeah.
That's the only time we saw Batman. And then Bruce Wayne at the end tag.
Right.
So, you know, Masters was not the only trailer to show the most recognizable character in the brand. Like, it's not the first time it's been done. And just to circle back to the lying, the Kevin Smith lied. Okay. If anything, he may have misdirected in terms to not reveal a spoiler months before the show is going to release. But every filmmaker in Hollywood working on a big IP like this has done it. And here are examples. J.J. Abrams, right? Remember when Star Trek Into Darkness was coming out? And everybody was like, oh, a report surfaced online, Benedict Cumberbatch is playing Khan. And what did J.J. Abrams do? In every interview, in every press interview, in every article, no. Benedict Cumberbatch isn't playing Khan, he's playing John Harrison. Without fail, every single interview. Who did Benedict Cumberbatch end up playing? Khan. I didn't hear, well, there was some of it, but not to the degree that we're seeing here. Oh, J.J. Abrams lied, I feel so betrayed, and it was the end of the world. I didn't hear any of that. What about Christopher Nolan, Batman Begins? When it leaked that when the spoiler leaked that Liam Neeson was not Ducard, but in fact was Ra's al Ghul. Spoilers, by the way. I'm sorry if I ruined that for anybody.
Maybe 16 years ago. I would hope not.
but and if somebody asked him or Liam Neeson in press or interviews, they would always say, "Oh no, he's playing Ducard." Let's stick with Christopher Nolan, shall we? Remember the actress, the French Marion Cotillard? Well, I don't know how to pronounce that. I think that's how you pronounce it. Okay. Remember? Oh, she's playing Miranda Tate. And then, spoilers leaked. No, well, she's Ra's al Ghul. No, she's not. She's Miranda Tate. Who did she end up playing in The Dark Knight Rises?
Talia al Ghul.
So, another lying filmmaker. Wow. Oh my God. A bunch of scathing liars, these people. Now, what about Jason Momoa, Donnie? Remember in 2014 or 15? Well, it was 2014 or 15 when Josh Horowitz asked him. So there's a report online that says you've been cast as Aquaman in Batman vs Superman. Any truth to that? And Jason Momoa responded, "I'm not Aquaman. In fact, if I'm Aquaman, if it's revealed in that movie that I'm Aquaman, the next time you interview me, you can punch me in the face." Jason Momoa said that to Josh Horowitz. Well, now, either I'm living in a fantasy land, Donnie, or the Aquaman movie starring Jason Momoa, after he debuted in Batman vs. Superman, which he said he wasn't playing Aquaman, grossed $1 billion.
Yes, it did.
So Jason Momoa is a liar too. Correct?
There's always been misdirection in Hollywood, and you got to get used to that. And basically what this comes down to, and I'll say a little bit more about it later from my perspective, just these incessant tantrums from certain segments of the fandom. It's as if they act like they're entitled to something as opposed to being offered a continuation of entertainment.
my thing is this. Of course they're going to misdirect if a spoiler leaks.
Yes.
They don't want you to know that before watching it. No person in Hollywood, if their show debuts in July and a spoiler leaks in March, is going to get online and say, well, there goes that spoiler. Yeah, I might as well tell you. He-Man dies in the first episode. Nobody's going to do that. And they don't owe you that. You're not owed that information beforehand.
Right. That is the key phrase right there. You are not owed that.
And the other thing, Donnie, is a lot of these people that are upset will say, oh, well, if they had just been honest and said it was a Tila show, we would have watched, we would have adjusted our expectations. I'm going to say it, that's bullshit, and here's why. When that description came out, the very description that I read, when this project was first announced 2 years ago, you know what happened? And I remember reading these tweets. Oh my God, the show's going to be all about Tila? I don't want to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from the same people that are making these complaints now.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that if you knew beforehand, you would have watched it, because you didn't know beforehand. You just didn't want to accept it, and you flat out said, I don't want to watch that. So don't give me that BS. Oh, if I had only known, I would have acted like an adult. No, you wouldn't have. No, you can say, I don't like Tila. You can watch the show and say, it's not my preference to have a show about Tila. I prefer more He-Man. You're entitled to have that opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But to act like a 4-year-old baby when expressing that opinion, this is the problem I have with it. And the other thing is the Rotten Tomatoes audience score. This is a case of review bombing.
Yes.
And here's how you can tell a review bombing is when it mentions it's using the same terminology. It's woke because, oh my God, there's a woman at the forefront of the story. Oh, what are we going to do with ourselves? And, oh my God, there's a black character. Oh, it's woke. It's woke. And the other reason it's review bombing is you can actually click on the audience person's review history.
Mm-hmm.
And surprise, surprise, what do you see when you click on most of these? Because I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 1 or 2 reviews. They've got 1 to 3 reviews. And here are the movies, here are the things they reviewed. Either they've just reviewed Masters of the Universe Revelation, so you were pathetic enough, and I'll just come right out and say it, to create a profile on Rotten Tomatoes for the sole purpose of giving a negative review to something you didn't like. I'm sorry, that's a waste of time and it's pathetic.
Exactly.
But if they have reviewed other things, there are 2 other things they reviewed. Star Wars The Last Jedi and Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And there you go. That's review bombing. And again, to point out what Donnie says, and then we'll actually review the show from this point onward. Look, yes, Tila is at the forefront of the adventure. I'm not denying that. Nobody will deny that. Donnie won't deny it. Anybody that's seen it won't deny it. But when Kevin Smith says it's all about He-Man, he's not lying, because the situation that every character is in and the decisions that they make are all brought about by the choice, and the choice is that He-Man made.
Mm-hmm.
The choice to not tell Tila the truth, and the choice to sacrifice himself in that battle with Skeletor. Exactly. All of those 2 choices send the rest of the characters on their current path. Mm-hmm. So in a way, yeah, it is all about He-Man. Everything that's happening is what He-Man.
This is only the start. We know there's going to be another 5 episodes, and hopefully several more seasons. So
and it's half of a story. That would be like me reading 3 issues of a 6-issue book and saying, "Well, I'm not going to read anymore. I don't like." And look, I'm all about once a storyline's complete, once a season of a show's complete, If I don't like it, I probably won't watch the second season. I'll admit it, but I'll give it the course of a story.
Sure. Well, I have to say, as a Green Lantern fan, sometimes when the main character goes away for a while, another character will crop up and good things can happen.
Yeah.
So,
like Donnie, here's an example. The Heroes in Crisis. Mm-hmm. It was an 8-part story. Loved the first half. I was into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did what they did. And up until recently, when different writers have come on board and changed things, they turned Wally West supposedly turned Wally West into a killer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that. But had I stopped at issue 4, I would have thought, man, Tom King crafted a hell of a story. I loved it. And some people that read further said, "What are you talking about? Did you see what he did to Wally?" I'd be like, "No, what happened?" I wouldn't have known my true feelings on the book had I not finished the complete story. So all I'm saying is, this is part of a story. The least you can do, if you're at all a He-Man or Masters of the Universe fan, is finish the story and then air your grievances if you still feel the same way.
Right.
So that's just my take. Again, have your opinion. I'm not saying you can't have your opinions. All I'm saying is that from where I'm sitting and from my rationale, a lot of the stuff that people are complaining about seems unfounded to me.
Right. Well, Steven said he didn't like it as much as you and I liked it.
Yeah.
But he seemed to say, yeah, this just isn't for me. There were some things I would have liked to have seen. But again, he didn't throw a tantrum.
Yeah.
And say a bunch of immature things about it. So
yeah, but Steven is a rational adult.
Right.
I haven't seen him yet tag Kevin Smith and call him a piece of crap, or I saw one guy yesterday said that if he saw Kevin Smith face to face, he'd punch him in the face. And I'm like, really? Over a cartoon? Seriously?
Yeah, I saw Kevin Smith on Twitter. I saw a lot of people, dropping onto Kevin's account to say, all kinds of nasty things. And I just have to ask, again, what is wrong with you that you feel like you can do something like that is just, so ill-mannered? I don't get it. Don't want to get it.
What happened to the practice of if you don't like something, walk away? Just ignore it. Just leave it alone. Okay, I didn't like it.
Yeah. You and I have talked about in the past, even though I love superheroes, I've never been a fan of Lego. There's a lot of Lego movies that are superhero themed that come out.
But Donnie, don't you want to go attack those? Why don't you tag the filmmakers and complain? Why are they making Lego?
Yeah. I don't watch those. They're not made for me. It's okay,
Like, look, I in fairness, I haven't given it a chance yet, and I don't know if I will. But I haven't watched the She-Ra and the Princess of Power show that Netflix does, or that they did.
It wasn't bad. I watched the first 2 episodes. I still have some catching up to do.
The animation didn't do it for me. I don't like the animation style.
Sure.
Now,
my kids loved it. You see, it was aimed at them.
Fair enough. But what I'm saying is, I didn't tag the animators of that show and say, well, your animation looks like crap. I just didn't watch the show.
Mm-hmm.
Simple. Now, I've complained. Look, if I have discussions on social media, if I don't like something, I'll say it. I've said that Batman and Robin, everybody knows my feelings on that. Here's the difference. I won't tag George Clooney and tweet, "Hey, jackass, you ruined my childhood." I have no desire to do that.
Yeah. This gave me flashbacks to 1999 when they were all, Star Wars. You had a segment of the fandom that were just losing their minds over the prequels.
And I'm not trying to say that I'm Mr. Magnanimous, but I could have easily, over the years, tagged Joel Schumacher and said, "Man, that Batman and Robin, you crapped all over my favorite character, blah blah blah." But what did I do? When he unfortunately passed away, I thanked him for his, in my commentary on it, I thanked him for his contribution to the Batman legacy, which was Batman Forever. And despite how much I don't like it, even Batman and Robin, he was a person that contributed to Batman lore. How much of it I liked or not is inconsequential. But I guarantee you there would have been some people out there that were classless that would have said, well, but Batman and Robin sucked. You know, they would have said R.I.P., but by the way, Batman and Robin still sucks. And I know these people are out there because I've seen it in other places.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. My thing is, like something or don't like something, that's fine. Voice your opinion in a tweet, whatever. But after that, my thing is, don't tag the filmmakers. It's douchey. You're a douche. It's douchebag maneuver.
Yeah. And don't, just go on and on and on about it and try to act like, somebody came along and kicked your dog in the face.
Exactly. That's what. So that's my problem is not the fact that you don't like it. It's the fact how, this Ask Clown TV YouTube channel that I like to call them, and other YouTubers are piling on and then tagging the filmmakers in their posts. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
State your opinion and then don't watch the thing ever again if that's what you choose to do. That's what I'm saying. So that's my rant. There it is. Sorry I had to go, but like I said, it's cool to have different of opinions. It's cool not to like something. You're well within your rights. It's how you handle your reactions. That's the thing. Like, there's a reason Steven and I haven't done a Supergirl review. Because I don't want to spend the whole YouTube video crapping on it, or video crapping on it. I don't like the show. Now, I may say that on Twitter. I may say that I don't like the show. I may make the odd joke, but I won't tag Melissa Benoist and the showrunners.
Yeah.
They don't need to see that.
Right. Maybe Steven and I could do a Supergirl show because I like Supergirl. So.
Well, Steven doesn't like it either. So I mean.
Oh, so I'll be all by my lonesome.
What would us be doing it? Like what would us be doing the show? We thought I had thought about covering, but after the He-Man stuff and after the stance I'm taking, I'm just better off not covering it.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have a little to say after we get into the content.
Let's get into the show. Enough of that.
Yeah, let's get into the show. So, Masters of the Universe Revelation opens up with the episode called The Power of Grayskull. And I've got to say, especially the opening in the first one, it gave me flashbacks to the little mini comics that came with the original line of figures.
Which is kind of what they're basing the show on.
Yeah, which I remember those. And they were a little bit, well, actually in places they were a lot different than the old cartoon from Filmation. I like that a lot, kind of the nods. However you feel about Kevin Smith, he's obviously somebody who's a fan, and he knows every corner of this universe. And so it was little touches like that I appreciated. So
the art was beautiful. It looked like a freaking.
Well, I want to say this. I mean, and I was a huge fan of the old cartoon series.
As was I.
The animation here was leaps and bounds better, as you would expect something 30 plus years down the road. Yeah. So while the palace celebrates, Skeletor penetrates Grayskull's defenses with Faker, who, by the way, actually looked like He-Man in this one. He wasn't blue like the old action figure was. Which I always thought was just hilarious. I'm like, nobody can see that he's blue.
Are they all colorblind in there?
So Skeletor has learned that Grayskull itself is not the source of the magic for Eternia. And he attacks, and the sorceress she is inside under the assault by Skeletor. She reaches out to Adam, who says a familiar oath. He says, in brightest day, in blackest... No, that's something else. He said... you know I had to go there. Of course, he says, by the power of Grayskull, and we see just this magnificent transformation. I had no problems with that whatsoever. It was long. I wouldn't want to see it 3 times an episode, but I liked it.
No, but it was beautifully... Like, it's... There's an added layer to it than just holding up the sword. 1 minute he's at him, and then... Just there's added layers to it. Like, you can actually see the transformation take place.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original, which I loved, I love the original cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's literally just Prince Adam is essentially He-Man wearing clothes.
Yeah.
The only difference between him and He-Man is he's tougher as He-Man, and he's more tanned.
Right. And his voice is a little bit deeper.
The original show, that's the only difference.
Yeah. I'm going to say something about that later, but let's get back to the narrative.
Whereas here, it's like a Shazam situation. He's a teen.
Yeah.
He's a teenager and then becomes a man.
Mm-hmm. So we see that the Council of Elders have buried the secrets of Grayskull in the heart of the castle. And so we go underneath Grayskull, and there's a battle between He-Man and Skeletor. Yeah. By the way, I love the wormhole punch where Skeletor's, that giant hand came through the wormhole, and He-Man punched it and still broke Skeletor's hand, even though Skeletor had a giant hand. I thought that was...
Yeah, it's very Green Lantern-ish.
Yeah, magnificent. So Moss Man shows up to help He-Man, but he gets roasted by Skeletor.
Literally.
Yes. So the orb in the Hall of Wisdom, that's the source of Eternia's creation.
Yes.
And so Adam uses the sword as a conduit for the magic, and he splits the sword, and he and Skeletor disappear before there's this eruption.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that scene, sir?
Oh, I mean, the action sequence was fantastic, and up until the last third of the episode, like the third act finale of the episode, it played out very much like a homage to the original show, where everything was cool in Eternia. Like everything played out as you would expect it. We saw Oracle attempting a magic trick and mangling the magic.
Mm-hmm.
And
nearly suffocating Cringer.
Yeah, Cringer was Cringer. He was afraid of fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
Per se. I think Teela was in her classic garb, and I like that after all these years she got a promotion. She's now Man-at-Arms, and again, it's a title.
Right.
Nobody freak it. Man-at-Arms is a title, and it makes sense. Her father is getting older, on the verge of retirement.
Yeah.
The torch is being passed. It's very progressive. I like that, And it's not to say that the show is now getting woke because it's 2021. Teela's always been at the forefront of the show. She's always been a major player.
And there's one thing I do want to say here, too. I really appreciated the focus that was on the relationship between Man-at-Arms and Teela, the father-daughter relationship. You and I talk a lot of times about shipping and how we feel like shows get bogged down in romance with, we've got to pair everybody up. They actually explored the father-daughter relationship, and I thought that was magnificent. So.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, it was good. And then when you talked about He-Man, again, calling on the power when he was already as He-Man, to create the separation of the source. The sorceress, when the attack was happening, freezes time. Mm-hmm. And that's when He-Man, and Teela come up with that plan.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Smith said he came up with that idea because as when he was younger, he had always wondered what would happen if He-Man called on the power when he was in that form. And that's how that decision came about.
And I appreciate that.
And that was the beginning of, Teela finding out that she had been lied to this way. Speaking of lying, that all the fans want to talk about lying, somebody that was actually lied to was Teela. Because he said, what if I call on the power while already in this form? And she's like, what do you mean already in this form?
Right.
And then when he does it.
And she also sees Battle Cat revert to Cringer.
Yeah, that's the first thing she sees. Yeah. And she was like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
And then when she actually sees, as the sword is kind of separated, He-Man reverts back to Prince Adam, and she sees that.
Yeah.
And the shock of that. And again, people were complaining about her reaction. How when she decided to leave the castle and abandon the castle, it was selfish. I'm like, she's been lied to for her entire life.
Yeah. To me, that was the first sign that we're dealing with a more adult series here, beyond just the animation. Marlena knows that Adam was He-Man.
And I love Kevin Smith's explanation, which was because I watched the comment. He did commentary tracks for the episodes.
Yeah.
So I watched those, and he said we always took it as mother's intuition, like she would know.
Yeah. She would know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Randor doesn't know.
Right.
Randor is furious at Man-at-Arms, and then Teela is also furious at everyone. To me, something like this happened. The grief that we see here, that's very realistic.
Yeah, like just because somebody dies, you expect somebody else to put aside. Like, it's not that easy all the time.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever had a disagreement with a family member or a friend, and then they pass away, you're gonna have conflicted feelings, obviously.
Yes. Yeah. That's part of what grief is. Yeah.
Because part of it too is, if you think about it, she never had that chance to like, you know, in her opinion, she feels that this is somebody that I trusted, and the way you see certain things, you know, loved, and he didn't think enough of me to trust me with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to disappear because, well, now he's dead.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. You know, it's a combination of anger and grief.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciated that. So,
yeah.
Do you know the whole story behind, Battle Cat's creation?
Her within the show, you mean?
No, with the toys from Mattel.
Is this a dad joke?
No, this is not. Believe it or not, no, this is not a dad joke.
All right, okay. What's going on?
No, believe it or not, Mattel had a bunch of tiger figures from a line. I believe it was called Big Jim. They had a bunch. They had like a surplus of tiger figures, and they're like, "Yeah, why don't we just have He-Man? We'll repaint these figures and have He-Man ride a giant tiger." So, and hence came Battle Cat.
It worked. Yeah, one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, exactly.
I am allergic to cat fur, but I like them anyway.
There's a lot of legends that surround the He-Man line. It was there's a lot.
I thought, to go back to Teela's reaction, I thought it was completely justified.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the backlash. Oh, well, okay. The terminology was, she's being bitchy. See, it's woke. It's woke. It's woke, Donnie.
No, she had a normal psychological reaction to a trauma, as they all did. They turned on one another because, again, they were suddenly hit with grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that leads us to episode 2, The Poisoned Chalice. So here's something that I want to get out of the way. I really appreciate this because this did something that, for me, even as a kid, the old series didn't do. Side characters would show up maybe for 1 or 2 episodes, but they didn't get a lot of focus.
Sure.
Here we start to see that this is Masters of the Universe, and all of these characters are going to be given some development. We see development with Stinkor. We see Andra, as you talked about. So this opens up with Teela and Andra outsmarting Stinkor for the glove of Globula.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I also like the, I think it was a Star Wars reference when, they take Stinkor out and then they tell the villagers, they're like, yeah, sorry about the mess. Yeah. So I think that was a Han Solo.
I also laughed hysterically, and I know I'm like, this is vintage Kevin Smith when Andra says, "No glove, no love." I'm like, okay, he even worked it in here.
So again, now this is a time skip. We see, that this is somewhere down the road. I don't know if Kevin Smith said how long it was.
I don't think he's specified. No.
Yeah, but this is obviously in the future. So magic is vanishing from Eternia.
Or almost gone, yeah.
Yes. And so we get a He-Man flashback where, and again, another extremely well done flashback. And then the narrative goes to Snake Mountain, which we now see is basically decked out in tech.
Donnie, the cool thing about that, just sorry to interrupt, but the cool thing about that flashback is that it kind of, those flashbacks are used, yes, to give you some He-Man action, but also it informs Teela, it reminds Teela of something that she often uses in her her present day battle. Which again, see, even though he's not there, he does have a big impact on the series.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. And did you notice that every time there's a flashback, there's a slightly brighter color palette?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I like that because it's a callback to simpler times,
It is, and
the good old days.
Yeah, and they even and the dialogue gets lighter too. At one point, He-Man tells Merman, he's like, or Skeletor, one of them.
The next.
Yeah,
episode.
he's like, it looks like you're all wet. It's it's your cheesy golden age hero dialogue. So, but again, we go into Snake Mountain. And we see that Triclops and Trapjaw, they are leading this like technology cult. Right. Which I love that. I thought that was just so much fun.
Well, you know why it's cool too is because Masters of the Universe has always kind of been a melting pot of sword and sorcery and sci-fi technology. It's always been a mix of the two.
Yeah.
So to have that continue, and then throw in a cult in the mix of it all.
Right.
It was kind of cool.
And I liked Andra's line. She looked at it and she was like, "What is this freak show?" And I've asked myself that same question on Twitter a few times.
Twitter is the freak show of all freak shows. But what was kind of creepy too? The transformation of that one guy when he starts like.
Yeah, when he drinks from the chalice and then he has like all that technology within him and he's
kind of like body horror, you know what I mean? Like it's
right. Well, and then later on the kid whose head twists around.
Yeah.
I appreciated those horror touches. Yeah. Drinking from the motherboard. Yeah. So and there was also like I think it was Tila, not Andra, that said, "Cry havoc and let's slip these cogs of war."
Yeah. Which is a play on
Dogs of War, yeah. So we see later on in this episode the woman who sent them to Snake Mountain to get this chalice is actually Evil-Lyn.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, the sorceress gives Evil-Lyn the last ember of magic that she has. So what did you think of that development?
Well, I like that Tila knew because it shows how smart Tila actually is. Like to figure out, this is Evil-Lyn, and she's always up to no good. Now they went back to the sorceress at the end of this episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that every time, because you see in this show, and the several people throughout the course of the show try and tell Tila something, and they keep getting interrupted by Evil-Lyn or whoever it may be. And we kind of, should we mention what they're trying to tell her? Because we know what it is, or should we wait till a little bit later to reveal that?
Big spoiler. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. I mean, because I do want to say something about that. Go ahead.
So essentially what it is the one plot thread that they seem to be picking up from the original show, because Kevin Smith keeps saying this is a spiritual sequel for legal reasons, because NBC Universal owns and Peacock own the rights to the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the Filmation. But the one plot thread that they're picking up on is the revelation, and this is why the title, that Tila is the daughter of the sorceress, which was revealed in the original show, Tila's quest, early on in the series. But then, of course, the sorceress thought she wasn't ready for this information, so she wiped it from her mind, and that's why Tila doesn't know.
And you see later on, Duncan and the sorceress exchange a look.
Now the question is, was she given to Duncan by the sorceress, or did he and the sorceress have a thing going on?
I guess it could go in either way. I'm inclined to believe the latter. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But
they seem to be very fond of one another. So. Yeah. So we actually learn in this episode that not only will Eternia die without magic, but so will the entire universe. And so it is now up to this group to find the two sides of the sword and use the ember to reunite the swords.
Mm.
And so it's at this point that they head to Subternia.
I just want to, before we go into that, I just want to mention Cringer's speech.
Oh, yes.
That was a beautiful, heart-wrenching scenario.
Yeah.
Where it's like when he's telling Tila like to get her to listen, he's like, you know, do you remember who named me? And he said it was you. And then you know she's like, yeah, but she goes into the whole Adam thing where you knew his secret, like he trusted you, but he didn't trust me. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you knew him all along. He's Adam is who he is. Prince Adam is who he is. And he goes, what you're feeling is not, you know, anger. It's sadness and fear. And you know deep down that he trusted that you, the reason why he made the sacrifice is because he trusted that you could protect us all.
Yeah, and I thought that was some powerful dialogue.
So, and he's like, what would he want you to do? And that's when she kind of, you know, snaps back out of it. And I just thought that, listen, for a talking cat to deliver a gigantic, you know, a overly large talking cat, tiger, I should say, really.
Right. That was a leftover from another toy line.
Right, but to deliver that kind of, you know, emotional, gripping speech, I think is pretty impressive and pretty. It was one of the moments that had me tearing up.
Well, I would agree, and there was a moment later on. Honestly, I got a little misty-eyed. There's a death that we'll talk about later on.
Yeah.
But,
agreed.
Yeah.
And before we go to Subternia, I think the conversation she has with Man-at-Arms and Orko and all that happens before that, right? Yes. I believe
okay.
So.
Yeah.
So when they agree to Evil-Lyn and
No. You're talking about that's the next episode, the most dangerous man in Eternia.
Is that after they go? That's after they go to. No, that's before they go to.
Yeah, this is when. Yeah, they show up. You see. Well, first you see a flashback with Skeletor and Merman.
Yeah.
And they're only reluctant allies. That's another little twist in this. Merman's not like a servant of Skeletor.
Yeah.
He has his own goals. But yeah, the most dangerous man in Eternia. We see that Evil-Lyn and Tila. They're both on their way to find someone who can reunite the swords, and that eventually ends up being Man-at-Arms, a.k.a. Duncan, who lives in some kind of ruins with magic water.
Yeah.
And they arrive there, and that's when, Beastman also shows up, but they're attacked by Triclops and Trapjaw, who are after kind of the last vestiges of magic on Eternia. They want to wipe that out. Yeah. And they only want, the motherboard, the technology to be the dominant force.
Right, which was cool. And then the battle there was great, where you saw Tila, Andra, and Duncan comes in to the rescue.
Yeah.
When it looks like they're being overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And Duncan has a very much like a retired Batman coming out of retirement.
Yeah.
Vibe to it.
Evil-Lyn even says that, she always feared Man-at-Arms more than He-Man because of his versatility. Yeah.
And I like that explanation. Mm-hmm. Whereas He-Man was the good guy, the do-gooder, as she called him. Like, you knew what he was about. Whereas with Duncan, you never know what he'd do to accomplish his goal was to defend the Royals, Castle Grayskull, the whole. So he'll go to whatever length to get the job done. Whereas He-Man, there was a debate whether, like, how far would he go? Only in the premiere of this show, where he finally stabbed Skeletor, was the first time he ever used that sword for that purpose.
Right.
And Skeletor even called him on it. So I think Evil-Lyn was right to consider, during that early period of time, Duncan the most dangerous man.
By the way, sure. I want to say, Beast Man looks awesome in this.
He does.
I really love the like barbarian type look that he had.
As does Mossman. Mossman looked good too.
Yeah, likewise. So Duncan, we find that Duncan takes the magic water back to a bedridden Orko.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting too, because he's being affected by the vanishing of magic as well.
Yeah.
Because he's a magical being.
I felt so bad for Orko when I saw him like that. And the funny thing is, I never really cared for him in the original show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, yeah, I don't care about this guy. Show me Cringer, show me Tila, show me He-Man. That's what, back in the day, that's what I thought. But this,
and he was pretty much just comedic relief in the original show. He actually got development here.
Yeah, this show made me actually care about him.
Mm-hmm. So we also see that Roboto is with Man-at-Arms, and he has Duncan's memories, and so he goes with Tila on the mission to reunite the sword halves. So
and then even Man-at-Arms, Duncan says, well, I know you have my memories, so you're probably not going to take no for an answer, so I'll come along too. And I love how he gets his helmet, which is being used up until this point as a fruit basket, which I thought was hilarious.
So Tila tells Man-at-Arms to go to Grayskull to protect the sorceress in case Triclops attacks.
Yeah.
So as they're on this ship, Merman and the Aquaticans attack. They're on the Crystal Sea. That's where we go to next. And Evil-Lyn has some of the best lines in this. She calls Merman a traitorous trout.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious.
By the way, Lena Headey is... Her voice is just perfect for Evil-Lyn.
Yeah.
And I'll contend, when they get around to the live-action movie, provided she's not 85 by the time they make it, they could cast her as the live-action Evil-Lyn, and I'd be totally fine with it as well.
Oh, I mean, if you saw her in the Sarah Connor Chronicles, she totally could do something like that.
Yeah, or even... what else was she in? Not Game of Thrones. She was in Game of Thrones, but Dredd. Remember the Dredd movie?
Oh, yes.
Judge Dredd?
Yeah. So Man-at-Arms shows up just in time, and he does his impression of Tony Stark, takes everybody out with the technology, and really impressive line here. She said, I told you to go to Grayskull, and he said, and I said, I love you, to his daughter. And he was like, no matter what else is happening, I'm going to protect my daughter. And I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, and that's when they hug each other, and it's like, all right, this conflict is somewhat resolved, and I liked it.
Yeah.
And even at that point after, Evil-Lyn and Tila have a conversation where, they each talk about how obsessed the other was. Tila mentions that you were always obsessed with Skeletor. Mm-hmm. And she's like, and you weren't obsessed with He-Man?
Yeah.
She's like, you still are. Like, you ran away from
you see the similarities between the characters there.
But it's funny that Evil-Lyn, like a lot of people, as justified as I think Tila's reaction is, a lot of characters call her out on it, and that helps her grow and move forward. Yeah. And I think that's important. So they have to show that.
And later on, I like how they capture Merman, who agrees. Basically, they're like, yeah, we'll leave you in the sun unless you take us to Subternia, which he does. And Evil-Lyn says, free the flounder.
Yeah,
she's got the dad jokes when it comes to fish.
Vintage. The one-liners were great. But also, I just want to. There's one tiny issue I had. I love Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy Kevin Conroy can record, a reading of the phone book, and I think it's cool because it's Batman, the voice of Batman. I felt something was missing with his merman.
Mm-hmm.
That watery gargoyle. I needed that a little bit of.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, he definitely went in a different direction than the original.
Because I'm like, every time he talked, I'm like, it's Batman. Like, Batman's voice is coming out of merman.
Right. Well, and some people said the same thing about Skeletor. They thought he was a little bit too much like the Joker.
But most of the time, there was variation. It was just when he laughed, there was a little bit of a Joker.
Yeah. When he said the line, "You did good, Lenny." All I could think of was you did good.
Yeah, there were parts where you hear the Joker, but I think there was enough differentiation.
Yeah.
The rest of the time.
Mm-hmm. No, I was fine. Again, you get people like Mark
It's a minor
Hamill.
criticism. Minor.
Yeah. So episode number 4, Land of the Dead. This was actually my favorite.
It was fantastic.
Yes. We see that the group is split, and Teela ends up fighting against Scareglow. And again, you're talking about a very minor character, Scareglow, who is integrated in a very essential way in this episode.
I don't think he made it into the original show, did he? He was just a toy.
I don't remember. Yeah, I think he came later on. So Teela ends up fighting Scareglow. She ends up fighting, a kind of a manifestation of He-Man and herself and Scareglow. Yeah, I love that. Again, I love the horror movie touches that we get with this.
Yeah, the visuals, like the smoke in certain places.
Yeah.
Tony Todd doing the voice. I mean, who else could you think of as Scareglow?
Yeah.
But
so, go ahead.
The representations of, He-Man and then herself that she's fighting, these are all part of the process of Teela overcoming her anger and her grief.
Mm-hmm.
And then within that fight, we see
that there's something different about her. He even says, "What are you?" You know, which I like that. So, and again, the group is scattered. So Orko and Evil-Lyn are paired up, and we see that as they're fighting this giant shadow beast, she's extremely conflicted over her life. She even said, she was like, "I wasn't born evil. I added the evil later on."
Yeah.
We learned that Orko, his name was actually Oracle. Yeah. That he couldn't pronounce it when he was a baby. Yeah. And, I like that they work together and they kind of form a partnership. And then we also see that Beastman, Abra, and Roboto are basically fighting the Walking Dead. And,
well, at least that's what I liked when Roboto scans them, he sees them as one thing.
Yeah.
But Abra sees them as zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's what she's afraid of. Mm-hmm. So it's their appearance is tailor-made to whatever you fear the most.
Right. And I like the fact that Roboto, again, another character that gets a lot of development here. He's a very elegant, polite fighter. He's like, "Excuse me, pardon me, that will need medical attention."
yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
But I really did, just to mention, I really love the pairing of Evil-Lyn and Orko. I thought it adds an extra layer to Evil-Lyn's character, that she's more than just, a stereotypical evil sort of sidekick.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's able to inspire Orko and say, no, yes, your parents could have been disappointed with you and they treated you, differently, and even your friends kind of shoo you away because, you're constantly messing up with the magic. But it's upon you to prove to them, use your gifts and prove that they're wrong about you.
Yeah.
And I like that pep talk.
And we definitely see that. They do get this half of the sword, and Orko has his big moment when his friends are threatened by Scareglow. And you also see a little foreshadowing here. Evil-Lyn tries to use her staff against Scareglow, and it won't happen. And remember, Scareglow said, "I'm a shadow of Skeletor." we see her try to use her magic and it won't happen, and that foreshadows what we see in the next episode.
Yeah.
But this is the episode where, like I said, I got a little teary-eyed because Orko comes out with a big heroic moment and sacrifices himself, and I thought it was really emotional, and of course that leads
and
into
he was like,
episode
look,
5.
I'm doing it, you know, he's all...
Yeah.
And then he had that, you know, that Gandalf moment where he's like, go back to your shadow, and
that was immensely cool. And that's all I was asking from a show like this. Just, you know, give me a little bit of development. Give me
it's, you know what it is? I think it's...
I thought it was a lot of fun.
I'll save my overall comment for the end, because,
So the last episode is called The Forge at the Forest of Forever.
Yes.
And in Preternia, they bury Orko, and in a very sad scene, very emotional.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier. One improvement I want to talk about is that Adam and He-Man don't look nearly identical.
Yeah, at all.
Which I thought that was if I tried to deny that my name was Donnie and I walked around in a pink vest and like spoke in an English accent and like used tan lotion on myself and called myself like Sir Arthur or something like that and tried to say, no, I'm not Donnie, I don't think you'd buy it. When you're a big guy, people are going to know who you are.
Probably not. But you know what? I'd like to see you try. So what I'd like you to do is for next episode, get a pink shirt and try and mimic Steven's accent, and then we'll see how that holds up.
I will say, I love on the Justice League commentary where you said something about Superman wearing a T-shirt, and he was like, "It's not a T-shirt, Adam." I was like, his accent just kind of gave you a little bit extra.
Maybe because when I was talking about Smallville, you mean?
But yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah, and Tom Walling's Superman T-shirt. Yeah,
he got frustrated. He's like, "It's not a T-shirt, Adam." Yeah. That was awesome. So, but we see that Prince Adam's sacrifice led to his admission into the Hall of Heroes, basically, you know, the heaven of the Masters of the Universe world, Preternia here.
Yeah.
And the reuniting of Adam and Teela, it's kind of bittersweet because, you know, they're mourning the death of Orko.
Right.
And, like I said, I was, kind of emotional.
I love when they're all saying nice things about him, that, you know, and then you get to Evil-Lyn and she's like, "You're a fool."
He was a fool. That's the nicest thing she could say.
But, I mean, that's her way of saying,
yeah,
you know, good job, kid, you know,
and so the heroes, they get the, you know, of course, Adam has the second half of the sword, and, or wait a minute, did Hero have it, or no, Adam had it?
No, Adam had it. Hero helped put it together with with Roboto.
Yeah, with Roboto, who by the way, that was the funniest part of the episode when they, you know, turn when they you know, they're in the forge and Roboto's like, you know, he's getting ready to do this, and they ask him, they're like, you know, do you think you can do this? Are you confident? And he's like, nope, not at all. You might want to step back. Get to the minimum safe distance, he said.
But before all that, though,
go ahead.
All that stuff on Preternia, where they're having the day of the hunt or whatever it is.
Yeah, the hunt. Yeah.
My God, did that look amazing or what?
The whole place looked amazing. I love that animation.
It was, and again, it's like in that place, things are just like it's better, and you could tell that by the color, the use of color, to differentiate the post He-Man world, which was, you know, the post Magic, post He-Man, which had gone to crap, and it was kind of, you know, darker and grayer, and then you get to Preternia, and it's bright, beautiful, lush colors, and the vehicles that they're driving on, or the animals that they're riding on.
The animals, yeah. And what was the, oh shoot, and I'm drawing a blank, but the woman who was there, the one who didn't speak English,
the one that looked like the sorceress,
who was that when Adam was getting ready to leave, and she said, "Goodbye, Flea Man."
Yeah, I like that they called him Flea Man because he was so skinny. But the cool thing that was said was that
he chose his lesser self. He was the first to do so.
Which to me, what does that say about Prince Adam, that really the core goodness that is He-Man is Prince Adam.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when Clark Kent says, you know, Clark Kent is who I am, Superman is what I can do to help others. It's the same kind of situation for Prince Adam. Adam is who I am, He-Man is what I can do for others, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that he chose that form. And I also like the just the volume of characters that was there. Hero.
Exactly, yeah.
King Grayskull.
King Grayskull, yeah.
Now, one thing I got to say, people keep calling him, I've seen reviewers discuss the series, and they're like, they got the All-State guy. And I'm like, Dennis Haysbert is not just the All-State guy.
Exactly.
He was the president on 24, and he was better than one of your real-life presidents, the one that was in 2016. You say that.
It's not good. Yes.
And not only was he the president at one time, he was also God in Lucifer. So plays God in the Lucifer show. So he's more than the All-State guy. I just had to get that out there.
Right.
But he's got a great voice for King Grayskull. Don't you agree?
Oh, yes. Well, and I like to, I'm not saying Mossman's voice done by Alan Oppenheimer. Yeah. I heard Falcor, though, because you remember he voiced Falcor in the Neverending Story.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
When he did Mossman, I kind of heard Falcor a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, yeah, and by the way, I will have no Dennis Haysbert slander because he was Kilowog in the Justice League cartoon.
That's right, yeah.
Absolutely none. So,
and I knew you would relate to that.
Yeah. So Adam, he actually seeks counsel with Mossman, who tells him that, you know, there is a chance that you could go back to Eternia, but if you go back, then you may, you know, we talked about this earlier, you may not make it back. This is a reward. You may not make it back here.
Yeah.
So when the power sword is restored at the cost of
Roboto... one more thing, Donnie, before we get to the big finale. When they were having the race, and Teela and Adam used those flying discs, those were right out of the 87 the movie, the live-action movie.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, Roboto dies, putting the sword back together, and I liked, you know, again, I liked the end of that, too. He was like, you know, I'm a miracle because I'm afraid to die.
Yeah,
that is great character development.
It's like the Pinocchio thing, you know. I am a real boy, you know, the whole.
But I mean that, you know, people who watch this, I'm like, if you're an adult watching this, would you really just choose some fight scenes over things like that?
But that's what I'm wondering, Donnie. I don't understand how you could want. Look, I love the original show. I can rewatch it now and get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
But if you put that exact show on in 2021. With no character development, no different, like more than just a story that's a one and done every episode, where everything resets and yay, we're all beside a campfire singing Kumbaya again. If you're trying to grow the brand, who's going to be excited by that?
Again, if you like the old series that much and you think that this is somehow detrimental to that, just go back and watch the old series. If that's all you want,
get your DVDs out. Go watch the original show.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
So Teela and her team, including Adam, they go back to they go back to the Hall of Wisdom with the sword. But just as magic is being restored to Eternia.
Yeah, because the whole thing is, as soon as Adam says, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power, everything starts, you know, everything would be restored again. And you know, the castle is a skull again. That means good. When it looks all pretty and fancy, I don't know, shit's gone the wrong way. We need the Skull Castle back, you know.
Yeah. So, but remember I talked about that foreshadowing within Evil-Lyn's staff. The essence of Skeletor has been hiding there.
Yeah.
And he comes out and stabs Prince Adam before he can say fully, say I have the power.
Yeah.
And he claims the sword now for himself and turns himself into what they're calling Skelegod. And that's how the series ends. Or that's how the first half of the series
The first
ends.
half, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it was.
I was not, I'll be honest with you, Donnie. I wasn't expecting that.
No, I wasn't either. I was surprised that I loved it.
I was like everybody on the planet, except I didn't complain about it afterwards when I'm like, oh, look, everything's back to normal. This is great. Just like I remembered it, He-Man's going to be He-Man again, and everything's going to look cool. Look, the Castle's a Skull again.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Tila are back on friendly terms.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he's about to say, I have the power, it's like, what the hell? And then when Skeletor kicks him off the sword, I'm like, shit, that's real crap is going down now.
Yeah, and the look of horror on Adam's face when he kind of turns and Skeletor's there. Yeah, I mean it. Again, I love
this is powerful storytelling. Now, I was shocked, but when the credits started rolling, I'm like, there's no way he's staying dead.
Of course not.
And if you look at where the wound is, it's not at the heart. Like, it's not right through the heart. It's more like he's holding his side.
Mm-hmm.
So hypothetically, right there and then you say, yeah, he's not dead. But,
no, he's not dead.
But just the shock of, I didn't expect him to die or to get killed twice. That was shocking. And
exactly.
That's edgy. That was edge of your seat storytelling that I'm like, when it ended, I was like, okay, but like I need this back five, like right now.
Right. And have you heard anything about when we're going to get that?
I have no idea. All I'll say is this. Just a feeling I have. PowerCon, which is the He-Man and Tila and She-Ra convention.
Right.
Every year.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening on September 11th and 12th or whatever the weekend is of that 11th, 12th around there.
Okay.
That's happening then. I bet you they're going to announce. I don't be surprised if it comes on mid-September or like after PowerCon or near the end of the year, like November, December.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is that Kevin Smith did a YouTube show last week where he was saying that he was addressing the haters and all the stuff that we address, kind of thing.
Right.
And he basically said, if you think angrily tweeting bothers Netflix or Mattel, it doesn't. And he was trying to say, I get the impression that he was trying to confirm that we were getting more.
We have a guest.
He was trying to say that there was going to be more.
Yes.
Like that. It almost sounded like that they had already gotten a green light for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't flat out say that because he'd get, again, NDAs, and if Mattel and Netflix don't want you to say something, you can't, right?
Right. He may not be able to say that yet.
But he was alluding to it, and then he said, if we're lucky enough to get season 2, the plan would be to finish this, the back 5 in 2021 or early 2022,
mm-hmm.
and then have season 2 hypothetically ready for 2023. So I'm willing to bet that October to December at the latest, we'll get the back 5.
Well, I'm there, so.
But
before we give this rate, all I want to say is to all those people out there who Kevin Smith and a lot of people, a lot of very talented people, put a lot of effort into this series. You can see the work and you can see the respect that they have given to the mythos.
Yeah.
And because, whatever your expectation was that it wasn't all about He-Man, if you want to act like somebody, kicks your 90-year-old grandmother out of her wheelchair, then you go ahead and do that. But it just makes you look silly if you're going to act that way when obviously they have made an effort to add to this franchise.
I honestly think, Donnie, you're 100% right, but I honestly think that after the back five, these people are going to look foolish.
They already look foolish, but they'll look even more so, yes.
But after, no, I could be wrong, but do you want me to guess at how I think it's going to end? Do you want me to go there? Do you want me to venture?
Sure, go ahead.
So, here's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to pick off right where we left off. Mm-hmm. Skeletor is going to cause a lot of damage with all his new power.
Which should be fun.
He-Man's not going to be dead, but the sorceress is going to use whatever power she has left, sacrifice herself to save He-Man. Mm-hmm. Along the way, that's when Teela is going to have to find out that she is the daughter of the sorceress. She will have to assume the role of the sorceress going. She's not going to be He-Man, because that would be ridiculous. When she's clearly being put in the direction of Sorceress 2.0. So she's going to assume that role. I think Andra, who also is not going to become He-Man, will assume the role of Man-at-Arms.
Mm-hmm.
Or Duncan will train her to become the next Man-at-Arms.
Makes sense.
They're going to set that up. And of course, He-Man will once again utter the famous words, become He-Man, and help the rest of the group defeat Skeletor. That's how I think it's going to go.
I've had a lot of similar thoughts along that. Yeah, that too.
So can we just relax? Like the fact that they had to publish an article in Variety telling these fools, He-Man's not dead, relax, from the mouth of Chris Wood, who voices the character.
Uh-huh.
And also Rob David, the chief officer at that's in charge of Masters at Mattel. They basically said, obviously Prince Adam's story is not over. The fact that they had to come and say that because people were getting ridiculous online shows you how pathetic some segment of the fandom can be. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, go outside, take a walk, do some yoga, do something like that. Calm yourself down.
I said something more to the point on Twitter. I won't repeat it here, but go look at my tweets. You'll see what I told you to do.
And hey, on top of this great show, we get this new line of figures.
Yes, which I've now pre-ordered. I have on pre-ordered He-Man, Battle Cat, and I'm debating whether to go Skeletor or Skelegod. But you've been kind of...
I lean towards Skelegod.
You've been greasing the wheels to the more expensive ones, so thank you. My wallet says, screw you, sir, no, but thank you. But that's the way I was going. But overall, I thought it was a great... I think it's a great revival. I think there's a growth in the maturity of the storytelling, while still, keeping the elements that we loved as children. They did grow it up a bit, which I'm appreciative of.
Yes.
As a 38-year-old man, I thought there was a lot more emotion than I expected to have because of these characters, especially from a character like Orko. I never thought, that character would drag tears out of me, but here we are. I thought almost, I loved Chris Wood as Prince Adam and He-Man. Did a great job in the delay, changing the voice. Mm-hmm. Enough that somebody could buy that, aside from they look different. Prince Adam and He-Man were two different people. As I said before, Lena Headey is pitch perfect as Evil-Lyn. I thought Stephen Root as Cringer in the little bits that we got of him was good.
Mm-hmm.
I did miss the stuttering a little bit, but it was there slightly in certain places. Who was the voice of Oracle? Because I want to call him. He was great.
We'll look at it. I can't remember.
Was it Kevin? Keith? Something Griffin.
We'll look it up. So
something Griffin, I think.
Well, this is just riveting podcasting. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
Griffin Newman.
Griffin Newman. Thank you.
Yes,
There it is.
Yeah.
He was fantastic as Oracle.
I would agree. Yeah, and gave a lot of gravitas there at the end.
like it was familiar.
Yeah.
Like it was the Oracle we do, but a little bit more grown up.
That scene where, like, whatever, the scarf that goes around his face, where that floated out to, Preternia, that was so sad. Yeah.
And then I thought, like I said, I really enjoyed Mark Hamill as Skeletor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were times where the Joker seeped through.
Yeah.
But am I going to get angry at that? Because, I mean, the Joker and Skeletor are both two of the greatest villains in the history of villains.
Yeah,
and I'm not joking to poke fun at my former co-host. I actually mean that. And I thought Sarah Michelle Gellar, I really love her as Tila. I thought she brought out the snark at times when she needed to with the Evil-Lyn. But I thought she also displayed, the badassery when she was, confronting Scarecrow, and she said, you gave me the power, and she really, goes into kick-ass mode. But also, I thought she brought some, emotional vulnerability when it was needed. So across the board, I for the most part, like I said, I was slightly disappointed with Merman, just because it really just sounded like Batman for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I love you, Kevin Conroy, but give me a little bit more of that gurgly drowning that is so anonymous, synonymous. Yeah, some more of that. Yeah, some more of that. You threw some Chewbacca in there, but I digress. But no, the voices were great, and it looked beautiful. The animation was stunning.
Exactly.
Masters of the Universe is back, and I couldn't be happier, and I just want more.
That's the bottom line. That's exactly how I feel. The franchise that I loved so much as a kid, I had the comics and the figures. I went and saw the movie, even though nobody else did.
I did too. Yeah.
I know, but nobody that I knew, I was the only person to go see that movie.
And that was vastly different than what we got in any other incarnation, and I still loved it.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, again, when I heard that it was coming back with somebody whom I knew would treat it with reverence in Kevin Smith, I knew we were going to get something good, and we did.
Look, would I have loved to have even more He-Man? Of course. I'm never going to turn down He-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm okay because I enjoyed the story that they told. And I know that we're going to get more He-Man in the back half. So I'm not concerned.
Yeah. So what would you give it letter grade-wise?
I got to give it an A.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not much that I didn't like.
Likewise, I'm going to give it an A+. I can't, maybe some tiny little criticisms here and there, but I really can't fault what we got. It was so magnificent in so many ways. I'm just so happy to have this mythos back, to be able to consume it once again in animated form.
I've always said it. I love Batman. I love Superman. I love Zorro. Those were three of my formative childhood heroes, and they still resonate. But to me, one of the first things I remember watching is He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So He-Man was my first hero, and I'm glad that universe is back, and of course he will be back.
Mm-hmm.
And he's named after me, so he's got that going for him too. So. Or I'm named whatever. But I digress. And look, everybody knows I'm going to do it right at the end here, that Sarah Michelle Gellar is on the list. She's on the Hall of Fame list, so it means no matter what position, her position is forever entrenched there.
So is there a Hall of Fame like version of you on some Earth that is with her?
Well, if there is, he's one lucky person, so he should be in the Hall of Fame or something. But he's the Hall of Fame variant of me. That's what he is. He's the CGC graded
9.8
variant of me. But and so thank you, Kevin Smith. I got to hear Sarah Michelle Gellar say my name several times, which was great. I always daydreamed about that as a 14-year-old watching Buffy. I never got that, so he gave me that. So thank you, Kevin. But also, speaking of, I added a new person to the list, Donnie.
Okay.
Tiffany Smith, who played the voice of Andra, is also on the list.
Oh, okay.
And because of that, neither of them will be on this podcast because they'll be, totally disturbed by that. But I digress. Yeah, I loved it. And again, you have every right not to like it. I'm not trying to crap on your opinion. I'm just saying some of the stuff you guys are saying are getting overhyped about and overreacting over really isn't a thing when you analyze certain things about how Hollywood works. And like the line BS, come on, get over that, guys. Kevin Smith is not the first person to obscure the facts because he's trying to protect a spoiler. Come on. And state your opinion, and then if you really don't like something that much, just leave it. Yeah. There are other things.
Yeah. Don't harass creators. That is that's very low class. So
be better.
Yeah.
Than
exactly.
That.
Yeah.
Come on. But we'll be back with our discussion about part 2 when it drops.
Just like He-Man, we will be back.
Yeah, and maybe you'll be back on some more episodes before then, because I know I typically do these with Chris and Steven, but we'll work you in on a couple more of these as well. Were you a fan of Thundercats as a kid, Donnie?
Oh yes.
Well, maybe me and you will do the Masters Thundercats crossover, the DC.
Hey, I'm down. Yeah. I had the old Star comics from Masters of the Universe too. So
I have the first issue of the DC comic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And the Star comic.
Awesome.
So I have both first issues. So we'll definitely be back for part 2. There'll be a lot more episodes of this podcast and vidcast in the meantime. But if you want to continue to talk about Masters with us, Donnie, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk comics. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk Masters of the Universe. Let's talk Green Lantern.
Awesome. If you want to find me, it's at Adam_LeafsFan on Twitter. I also, the show also has its own Twitter account at Multiverse. No, sorry. At MMNPDC on Twitter. We have the Facebook group, which is in the description below. Click the link, ask for permission to join. I'll add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But remember, as we leave you, that 2 things. You too have the power, and remember that He-Man and the Masters of the Universe are forever. From the first time He-Man holds his sword aloft and says, I have the power, to the last. So long, everybody, and
so long, everyone.
Good journey.
Dun, 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 dun.
By the power of Grayskull.